Welcome to School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to School's Out 80s Comedy Story Time. Got a really special guest coming to us all the way from Cape May, New Jersey, Joe Scaracca. Say hello to everybody at School's Out 80s.
Good morning. Good morning, John. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm down here in Cape May County, New Jersey, the southernmost tip of the state. When people come here, they get very surprised that it doesn't look anything like the opening to The Sopranos. So we have beautiful beaches, a lot of green parks, less mafia.
Yeah, I'm thinking you got like what, bikinis, hair plugs, and Medicare recipients, right?
I try not to look at the bikinis. I have a girlfriend now. And
oh, nice. I like
Italian, half Polish. So, the Polish side doesn't make her realize on the Italian side how violent she's getting with me if I look at another girl. So I try to keep my eyes to the ground.
Middle-aged men in Speedos, is that what we're talking?
Well, the French Canadians come in Speedos. They're a little too revealing, and they're the ones that really need to be wearing their surfing board shorts, not the Speedos.
That's right, man. Put them in jams and get those little skimpy things up. Cover that up, man. I don't need to
nightmares.
Yeah, nightmares and heart attacks.
In those Speedos are what nightmares are made of at the Jersey Shore. I have to tell
you. Exactly. Okay, so Joe, it's called School's Out 80s. I love talking about like high school. I know you got like really, really good stories. So before we started recording today, you were saying that you went to Wildwood High School in Wildwood, New Jersey. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep, for ninth grade. Yep.
Okay, so for ninth grade, and I think you said that the mascot was called the Warriors. Is that right?
Well, the team name was the Warriors, and the mascot was an Indian with the full chief headdress, and it's all this Italian commonality. I like that one post you sent me about the Italian names. They're only pronounceable if they're named after pasta. But there's even pasta that how many people can really pronounce gnocchi the right way or manigot the right way?
Right. It's funny though, because like people can say manicotti, people can say spaghetti, rigatoni, and you ask them to say Sansoni, and they're like Sanson, Sandstone, Sandstone. It's crazy.
Well, Scaracca, let me tell you, with Scaracca, I've gotten Sunoco, Scarola, Scarocha, Scaricia, Scirocco, which was close, but there's no it's at the end. And in college, of course, it was scrotum.
No, I was wondering if people called you scrotum.
Yeah, in college, I went to the University of Arizona for 6 weeks. Couldn't stand it. Yeah, that was a fun time.
Not bad.
Yeah, that was the first time I was ever referred to as scrotum. I think that was the only time. They were very creative out west.
Yeah. People used to think I sold dope because all my guys that I played football with would call me Stone or Stoner. Hey, Stoner. Hey, Stone. And I'm like, I drink, but I don't like I even had like when I was, I think a sophomore in high school, a senior came up to my locker and says, "Hey man, can you hook me up?" And I'm like, "Hook you up with what?" And he's like, "Well, I figured like, everybody calls you Stone and Stoner. So I figured like, you probably got the hookup." I'm like, "Dude, I have no hookup for you."
It's amazing, what people assume. My family owned a diner, and we had I don't know if it was a DEA or an FBI plant, and this guy was a dead giveaway because he came in as a cook with all this experience. He couldn't even cook a hamburger, so we knew
really.
somebody sent this guy in. And then one day he just disappeared. So I knew a lot of the local cops in Wildwood, and I said to them, I said, listen, what the hell was going on? Who sent? And they just shook their head.
Yeah.
They couldn't say anything, but they didn't say, "Oh no, what are you talking about?" So it's
Yeah.
funny how they just assume you have a vowel at the end of your name, you're doing something other than a legitimate business. But
Right.
it was funny.
Yeah.
My parents didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was funny.
Hey, man. My parents own their own business. So I got some funny stories from back in the day. Like my dad was given a Christmas bonus to one of his drivers, and the guy opens up his wallet to receive the Christmas bonus, and he opened it up upside down, and his prophylactic hit the floor.
That's common. Haven't we all done that? I mean, I had the same. People thought I only had one outfit. I had like 8 shirts, 8 blue shirts, 8 pair of Sears tough skin jeans. That's what I would wear to school. But
Were you going to Catholic private school?
No, I went to public school through 9th grade, and then Wildwood High School was just a little too rough for me. Took me to Atlantic City Friends School, which was a Quaker school. We weren't Quaker, but we went to the school in Atlantic City, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and I just was like, okay. And this place was truly an asylum. I mean, the first day, mind you, I'm like.
Did the girls wear like long dresses, like Little House on the Prairie kind of thing?
Yeah, but guys had to wear ties, and it was conservative. But believe me, I'll tell you how we corrupted. So I get there. I'm a juvenile delinquent, long hair, and so.
Are you a musician too?
I actually played guitar for a while, but I don't anymore. I mean, I play for fun. I'd never played it professionally. I'm not.
Yeah, I was just curious.
But I go in there, and the first person they introduced me to is this kid named George Jack, and I nicknamed him R. Poley for Roly Poly, because he was literally he looks like what they based the Eminem cartoon characters on. This is the shape this kid had, and I walk in. No hello. He said, hi, my name is George. I like Star Trek. Do you like Star Trek? And I'm thinking to myself, where did my mother just enroll me? So then he gives me a tour of the school, and there's a kid talking to the scoreboard in the gym. Nobody else in the gym. The scoreboard's not even on. He's sitting there having an argument with the scoreboard. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. And when I tell you I ran that school, we weren't supposed to go off for lunch. By the time I was a junior, we were going out. We were going to the Tennessee, the Irish pub on Tennessee Avenue in Atlantic City, and we would have beef and beer for lunch. Come back half tanked for our afternoon classes.
Oh my God, Joe, I love it.
I have one about, my wife in the old days when you used to text with the phone. Remember, you used to have the flip phone and you could text, but you had to, keep hitting the number till you got the right letter. So you kept them short. So one day, my wife Renee, she texted me. She said, I need you to pick up milk. I said, sure. And then she texts me back the number 10 and the letter Q. Well, I'm thinking, okay, she needs 10 quarts of milk. So I come home with 2.5 gallons. She said, what are you bringing all this milk for? I said, 10Q, 10 quarts. She says, no, that meant thank you. And I'm thinking to myself, when you say you want milk and then you put 10Q, my mind is you want 10 quarts of milk.
Right.
And so, but again,
I got a milk story. So I was traveling on business 6 hours away from Dallas, roughly 5 hours from Dallas, depending on traffic, could be 6. I get up in my hotel. I'm walking out into the corridor or whatever. I call my wife to get better cell phone reception. She's like, have you had a good week? And I'm like, yeah, I have. She's like, how long do you think it's going to be before you get home tonight? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, hon. I think it's going to be maybe 5 hours. So I'll probably be home around maybe 5 if I leave, at noon or whatever. And she's like, honey, on your way home from work, can you pick up some milk?
Yeah, sure.
Like, that's a classic, my wife. But you got to know this, Joe. Where we live in the suburbs in Dallas, literally there is a convenience store about, 0.8 miles from our house where you can get milk. And there's a full-fledged grocery store about 1.3 miles from our house where you can get a plethora of milk.
She wanted to put that on you.
That I bring the milk home.
Listen, that's what husbands are for, right? I mean, Renee's best saying was, "What's hers was hers, and what's mine was hers." And I said, as long as I live by that, I guess I'm going to have a happy marriage. You
There
know,
you
so
go.
the paychecks went to her, everything went to her. So, but yeah, it's it's you know, life's crazy. Some of the stuff, and we just
Oh,
accept
yeah.
it as the norm. But like you
Hey,
said,
if I told you what my wife was doing this morning, I told her, like, I'm gonna have to tell Joe when I get him on the show. I'm gonna tell Joe when I get him on the show what you're doing this morning. So we have a horse. We're in Texas, and
Okay,
she's at the barn right now. Guess what she's doing with the horse?
giving it milk.
No, she's washing the horse's tail.
Okay.
Can you think of a more disgusting thing to do with your morning? I mean, a
Yeah,
horse's tail.
washing the horse's ass.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
Right
the
below that.
horse's tail. It's like there's little remnants of poop in the horse's tail. It's a girl horse, so it pees right out its back, right onto its tail. I mean,
I don't know much about horses other than I saw a woman get kicked by a horse once. It was doing
okay,
one of those riding trails, and the
yeah,
girl who was leading the trail, who I guess should have known better, got off the horse, thought something was in its shoe or something, goes behind the horse, and this lady went 5-6 feet and was knocked out cold. Talk about, okay, I never want to be on a horse or near a horse ever again. That was frightening as a kid. So,
well, it's dangerous to wash a horse's tail too because like they're real sensitive. You know, they weigh like 1,200 pounds. So all right. Okay.
we'll leave the horse stories at that. I got it.
Yeah, I bet you did. Okay. So I'm not like I've been to New York. I got a buddy of mine lives in Long Island. He now lives in Jersey. I don't know what part of New Jersey he lives in. I'd have to text him right now and ask him. But when I was in New York about maybe 4 years ago, we went to Cape May.
All right, that's where I'm at, close to Cape May.
Yeah, hung out at the beach. We got on a jet boat, which was badass, 60 miles an hour, just hovering above the ocean, screaming across the ocean. So much fun. But I just wanted to mention that, like, I'm kind of familiar with where you live and like
Yeah.
the New York area, what have you. In fact, while I was there,
Yeah.
what's that?
I'm down by Cape May, so we're so far from New York. It's like Jersey's like two states. It cuts off right around Tom's River. It's like
Yeah,
everything Tom's River north is more New York. Everything south of Tom's River is more Philadelphia. So people come down to my area like Cape May. If it was the first time you ever came to New Jersey, you probably looked and said, this isn't what they show on The Sopranos.
right.
There's a beautiful beach, and Cape May is a beautiful city, and it doesn't look like there's any mafia people here. It's a whole different world, North Jersey and South Jersey.
It looks like the Caribbean, like when you're in Cape May. It's like the Caribbean with like a small hometown feel, in my opinion.
So I don't know if you did a lot of sightseeing, but they've got the Congress Hall. And that was literally referred to as the Summer White House because for 3 or 4 presidencies back in the 1800s, the presidents would spend the summers there. So that was way before Camp David, so that the Congress Hall was, in fact, if you go in Congress Hall in the hallways, like where the stores are and whatnot, they'll have framed letters on, presidential letterhead from a president saying, I'm at Congress Hall, I'm about to declare war on this, whatever. It's just, but it's real. The real letters that were written at Congress Hall with the presidential seal from saying basically Congress Hall was the summer White House.
Sure. So you probably graduated high school, what, 79? Am I right on that?
Right on, 79.
I'm real analytical.
The bank drive-through the other day, and I
Mm.
saw this guy was so ugly. I felt so bad for him. And then I realized it was a woman, and I felt even worse. I said, oh, this woman, she'll never find
That's
it.
good. I like that. That's really good.
Story. I'm just looking at this woman. I said, how can anybody be so ugly? And then,
oh my God,
woman, I said, oh my God, it's even worse. But that's my life. That's my crazy life. I only
okay. So it was a woman that was ugly, but it ended up being a man that was ugly, or
No,
vice
no, I
versa?
thought it was a man, but it actually was a woman. It ended up being a woman.
Okay. Did it have facial hair?
I couldn't see that far, but I thought I saw like a 5 o'clock shadow.
Ah, that's interesting because the symmetry of the face. What made this individual so ugly? Did you think like just
Every feature that could be wrong was wrong. Ears out of size, just quadruple chins, the nose being out of place.
okay?
They looked over at me. Their eyes weren't set. It was like almost like a fish. I mean, there were so many things wrong with this person's face. It's like
Okay.
it was almost like this is a practice person. We're going to see. Nope, that didn't work. We'll put him out there anyway. Let's see how the public reacts.
And they say God doesn't make mistakes. Come on, God.
Well, I mean, it was practice. I won't even say it was a mistake. I think God just said, "Oh, it's practice. Let's see. Maybe we'll make everybody like this. Maybe we won't. Let's see how people react to it." Now we're gonna bring the eyes in. We're gonna only have one chin for most people.
He's like, hey, go. I agree. And before we kind of get further into the show, for those who are watching that are not Italian, Joe and I apologize.
That's what.
It's
Well,
luck of the draw.
Names, right? We were talking earlier about how difficult it is for people to pronounce our names unless they're tied into pasta. So maybe that's a good idea. I may change my last name to Ravioli. Joey Ravioli, easy to pronounce. I get everything from Sunoco to Scarola to Scrocia. It's anything but Scrocca.
Yeah, right. And Scroc is not hard to say, but
it really
okay.
is spelled that way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like you change so you're going to be Ravioli. I'll be Spumoni.
Okay, that's good. Johnny Spumoni and Joey Ravioli. We could go
Yeah.
on tour.
Yeah, they ought to be able to, go with that. Okay, so we got you in high school. You're a freshman. Tell us some funny stories when you were at Wildwood.
So at Wildwood High, it was a culture shock. Even though I grew up down here, where I came from was basically, all the little lily white middle class kids. And they went to Wildwood High, which was a group, more of an ethnic mix, more of an socioeconomic mix. And I was getting picked on by some of the tougher kids, and I wasn't used to that. And so I had a friend who was really a friend of my cousin's. We called him Big Dave. Now, Big Dave was called Big Dave because Dave was big. And I said, Dave, this guy's bothering me. He corners this kid in the bathroom. After that encounter, this kid could not have done more for me. I'll carry your books. I'll do your homework. I'll buy you lunch. My mom will give you a ride home.
I love it.
Yeah. So that was sort of my my entry into becoming a little mafia don, is having my enforcers taking care of me. I'm not going to fight my own battles, but see Big Dave over there? He's got you, my friend.
And Big Dave was your cousin?
No, he was a friend of my cousin.
Ah, friend. Do you remember Big Dave's last name?
When I say Big Dave, he was big. He was big. You didn't want to mess with Big Dave.
Do you remember Dave's last name?
Higgs, Higgs, David Higgs.
Good
kid, nice kid. Raised by a single mom. Mom passed away. His sisters raised him. Unfortunately, like so many do in this area, found drugs and died of an overdose, and always felt bad about that. And I blame our area not having enough activities for younger kids, so they're bored.
Okay.
They end up, trying the wrong things and get stuck on it. So it's hopefully that will change. Hopefully they'll have more activities for the kids. But yeah, David Higgs, I miss him, and good guy. And he bailed me out from getting the crap beaten out of me on a daily basis.
Bullying 101. So brings up, so I want to hear more about your mom. The reason I want to hear more about your mom is because people who are not Italian don't understand like how strong Italian women are. And the stories that are out there of famous men who have strong Italian mothers. I think back to Frank Sinatra, the hobo from Hoboken.
Yeah,
how his mom got it.
He always said he was from New York.
Yeah, of course, right?
Well, gee, my mother, so my crazy, crazy family. My grandmother, my mother's mother, her name was Consuela, but she went by Susie. My mother's name was Yolanda, but she went by Dolores. So just to give you some insight
And,
of
and
growing up.
nobody really picked a common name. Like they went from one crazy name to another crazy name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just, so my mother was Dolores, and
Okay.
tough Italian woman. Um, refused to let me date because there was no girl good enough. I think she was waiting to die and come back as the girl I was going to marry, as weird as that sounds.
That's
And
funny.
I eloped with my wife Renee because I knew she would never give us the blessing to get married. So what Renee and I did, Renee was in law school down in Atlanta, and we eloped. We got married and didn't tell anybody. And then what we were going to do was tell everybody we were going to get married and have a regular wedding.
Yeah.
Well, somehow people found out we were married, and my father calls me and said, "Are you and Renee married?" And I said, "Yeah." And that really, I always felt bad because it upset them. Why didn't you tell them? Well, because Mom would have never allowed us to get married. And my mother was like, "I'll get it annulled. I'm talking to a lawyer." Said, "No, I love her. We're married, and
Yeah.
you're not going to get an annulment." So every Italian Sunday dinner, the pasta dinner, the whole thing. So we'd be there. My mother would talk to me like Renee wasn't even at the table.
Oh
Oh,
no.
you're getting used to her cooking. What, are you going to go home and eat hot dogs? In the meantime, I was here, eat some more. No, I had 2 full plates of pasta and everything, meatballs, the whole shebang. She says, "Oh, you don't like Mommy's cooking anymore? You're getting used to her crap." Like she wasn't there. Now, 8 years later,
Uh-huh.
we have the first grandchild, and they become best friends. So, it really
Love it.
had a turnabout. But my mother was still tough. My family owned the Wildwood Diner, and
Yeah.
one day my mother's out front, where customers come in and pay and leave, and a guy came in and he wanted to rob us. He pulled a knife. My mother looked at him, laughed, knocked the knife out of his hands, and "Get the hell out of my diner!" And the kid ran out. Wasn't expecting that at all. I mean, the tough Italian women that raised me, I'm a wimp compared to them.
Oh my God. Wow,
But,
Joe. That's a great story.
but yeah, so we were talking, in second grade, I was walking
Yeah.
home from school for lunch, and this
Yeah.
kid, and I won't mention his name, Billy Marvel. And anyway, he was pushing me, and he was hitting me on the back of the head, and I saw this piece of paneling laying in the street, and I picked it up and I smashed it across. It was paneling. It wasn't like a 2x4 where I gave him a concussion. It just scared him. So I go back to school, and the classroom is set up like a little courtroom, and Mrs. Little, the second grade teacher, put me on trial for hitting Billy with the piece of paneling. So I go home and I tell my mother. My mother gets in the car. I don't know what she said to Mrs. Little, but I don't think I ever had to attend another class and I would have gotten straight A's.
I love it.
I think anytime she would see me, she would start to shake a little bit. And I thought, "Oh, okay, Mom's cool," but,
Greatness.
she was just, I remember one time in the supermarket, I'm maybe 3 or 4 years old. I grab a pack of Oreos and throw them in the cart. She puts them back. My mother was very religious. So I took the Lord's name in vain without even missing a beat and look. And she backhanded me. I must have spun 6 times. Another lady heard what I said. She says, "That's it. You tell that boy to have respect and not to say that." So today, the people would be on their cell phones videotaping, sending it to Child Protective Services. They would take me
Right.
away.
Yeah.
So a whole
It's
different
gone
world.
the other direction.
And
Hey,
then,
Joe, getting
yeah,
back to Billy,
yeah.
I feel like you got Billy so close to paneling at a young age that he's probably now a contractor.
I don't know. He's either a contractor
Uh-huh.
or I ruined him for life, and he's out there with one of those signs. Please give me $1 for a cup of coffee. I don't know. It's one or the other.
Or he could be standing outside of a bed store saying 50% off, holding up a paneling. Like,
That holding those signs and the way those guys twirl the signs, he might still have trauma for when I hit him with the paneling. So I don't know. Or maybe
he
he
might
did
not
that
even be able to go into Home Depot, right? Like Home Depot might give him past trauma as he's walking down the paneling aisle and walking down the
He probably walks in and says, "Which aisle is paneling?" and avoids it like the plague.
He does. He does. Oh,
But,
that's greatness. He
but
can't stay in a cheap motel. It gives him the heebie-jeebies.
hey, all I wanted him is to leave me alone. So I figured, well,
Right.
if I turn around and punch him, he might punch me back. If I hit him in the face with a piece of paneling, he'd probably stop. And he did. And then I got put on trial. But, such is
Good
life
for
in
you, man.
my childhood. But my
Yeah.
grandmother,
Yeah.
crazy. So my grandmother was a Rosie the Riveter. She worked in the Philadelphia shipyard. She had top secret clearance. She welded submarines during World War II.
Whoa.
She fell off scaffolding and received a Navy disability pension for the rest of her life. So she was like 4x4. I mean, you would look at her and say, "Oh, this lady's nothing." She was so tough. At the diner, a guy from a motorcycle gang came in and was sitting at the counter. And she looked at him and said, "You're dirty, you're filthy, get out of my diner." And people are saying, "Oh my God, I don't think she knows who this guy is. He's going to kill her." He gets up, he walks out. A couple hours later, comes in, clean shaven, different clothes. "Is this better, ma'am?" Says, "Not only is it better, I'll sit down with you and buy you breakfast." My grandmother became good friends with the head of a notorious motorcycle gang by
Whoa.
insulting him in public.
So was your grandmother, Joe, was your grandmother a first gen, like, was she originally from Italy?
No, she was from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, but she married my grandfather, Willie, who was from Italy.
Ah,
So
okay.
on that front, I'm second generation.
Wow. So what was your grandmother's name, the one that sat down with the motorcycle guy?
Well, Susie, they called her, but Consuela was her real name.
Ah,
And
so
she
sounds Italian
got married
descent.
at 16 because she wanted to go to the movies, and her mother wouldn't let her go to the movies.
Wow, that's a good story. So she's Italian as well, your grandmother?
Yeah, I don't know anybody in my family going back forever, that isn't Italian. So I think I'm 100%. Although I did take one of those, the Ancestry.com, and it came back twice indeterminable. But I had to prank them. I swabbed my mouth, and before I put it in the envelope, I swabbed the dog's mouth. So I wanted to see what kind of reading would come back. I thought it'd be something interesting, like a hybrid human dog person. It just came back indeterminable. My sister was like, "What did you do?" And I told her, she said, "I'm going to kill you. I paid good money for this." I said, "Well, you should know it's me. I'm not going to take it serious."
It's like part German Shepherd,
part Italian, well, she came back 75% Italian, 25% African. So we had the same parents, as far as I know. And so I think that I'm probably the same.
Wow, that's funny. That is funny.
But I had to prank. I had to prank that because it's
that is greatness.
Who cares? Who really cares? Number one, and number two, how accurate are these tests? So let's have a little fun with it. Let's see if I can make these people go crazy. I'm thinking, oh my God, we've got a hybrid on it. This is really, and remember in ET when they had all the tents around Elliot's house when ET was inside? I'm thinking they're going to do that to my house, thinking I'm some like hybrid animal person. So
that's greatness. Hey Joe, back in the day, in the 80s. So I'm thinking like you're probably finishing up high school, like mid 80s. Is that right?
High school, 79.
Is when you, oh yeah. Sorry. So you got out in the work environment in the early 80s. So can you think of a story that's like 80s related, like would resonate with people about the 80s?
Well, aside from the great music that we had, it's when you listen to the music that comes out today, it's like, wow, we were so lucky. And then you hear one of our songs and say, I remember hearing that song on the radio right when it came out, and so just in general, the music, but as far as the 80s, I was in college, got a degree in accounting, went to Villanova Law School, got a master's in tax law. And, during the Reagan administration, he had a massive tax act that was so massive. We went from the tax code of 1959 to the tax code of 1984. So talk about timing. I took a master's in tax program where I started where the law was no good anymore. And then I ended where the law was so new, they didn't know what to teach. So I have a great degree in a master's in tax, but the time I took it probably the worst time in history to get that degree.
Interesting. Wow. So,
So yeah,
so you went to law school for, so are you considered an attorney at this point?
believe it or not, no. Villanova was one of 3 law schools in the country at the time that allowed practicing accountants to go in their master's in tax law. So I've actually got an LLM in taxation, but I don't have a JD. So I have to call it a master's in taxation. But it's, I was sitting elbow to elbow with lawyers. So the lawyers that left with an LLM were taking the same classes as me. So, but it was
That's
just
impressive, man. Wow.
yeah. I mean, I really was determined. And that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized, you know what? This is so boring. I can't do it. But let me think of some other great. Well, we had the diner. My family owned the Wildwood Diner. And Wildwood, a little bit of history about Wildwood. Wildwood was a catalyst for rock and roll. The first commercial rock and roll song was Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets. That was performed for the first time in Wildwood, New Jersey. So Bill Haley was a country western act. And somebody said, hey, you've got to check out this group at the Martinique in Wildwood called the Treniers. And he did. And he said, I want to change to that sound, which was nobody called it rock and roll because it hadn't been termed that yet. But
wow,
it ended up being, Chubby Checker did the twist for the first time in Wildwood. Dick Clark did American Bandstand from the Starlight Ballroom from the Boardwalk. So I grew up around all this stuff back in the 50s and 60s. But then in the 80s, we still had a lot of concerts and we had wrestling. So my family owned the Wildwood Diner. We were open 24 hours a day. And I'm in the kitchen, and they all called me Jay because my dad was Joe, so they just called me Jay to not confuse us. And the waitress comes back to the kitchen and says, Jay, this guy's bothering me. You got to come tell him to stop bothering me. I go out. It's Andre the Giant. Now,
what?
We called him the Giant. He was a foot or more taller than me sitting down. His hands looked like baseball gloves. I looked at her. I said, I'm not saying anything to him. You could quit. I'm not saying anything to him. But he was in there with Gorilla Monsoon, Bruno Sammartino, and one of the other big wrestlers. But they would come in every week. They would have wrestling matches every Saturday. No, every Sunday they'd have wrestling. Saturday they'd have concerts. And we had some incredible concerts down there.
So you were probably like bussing tables at your diner.
Now cooking, well, everything. I used to laugh. I used to say I'm the only person with a master's in tax law that's a busboy. And because I still had to work, my mother didn't care. She was like, "Oh, I need you to work at the diner." And I said, "Yeah, but I have a master's in tax law and I have a practice that I'm doing very well. I don't care. We need people to work at the diner. You need to come in and cook and do it." So I worked at the diner until they sold it in '98. So,
wow. So okay, I got to get back to Andre the Giant. So Andre the Giant is there. Do you recall like how much he was eating?
I didn't. One of the reasons I didn't want to say anything is I knew he was going to eat a lot. That was going to be a big bill. So I didn't see what he ate, but I'm sure he ate like 20 eggs, a couple omelets, pound of sausage.
It's incredible.
Now this is back in the early 80s when, diner bills were still relatively cheap. That was definitely over $100 bill for those 4 guys.
Oh, I'm sure. I think he's on record of drinking like over 100 beers in one day or something.
Yeah, and probably didn't faze him. He was so big. I mean, I looked at his hands, and I felt bad because he looked so deformed. I mean, his fingers, like this, they looked like those big fake cigars that the Three Stooges used to smoke. That's why, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to say anything to him. You could quit. And that's what I told the girl. But we had everybody come in. There was a place called Cozy Morley's Club Avalon, and Cozy was a fixture down in Wildwood, and he got in trouble with the IRS. So one year, Joey Bishop,
Andre the Giant did.
No. This is Joey. This is Cozy Morley. So Joey Bishop came down and did a summer free of charge to help Cozy get out of the weeds. So Joey would come in every night at the diner and have to have a section set up so it was private because people wouldn't bother him and everything. But the diner was well known for, that's where all the entertainers went. That's where when the Philadelphia news crews would come down. That's where all the news crews. That's where all the mafia people went. It was crazy. I mean, it was a fun place to grow up, a fun place to work. And I didn't mind working there, even though I had a master's in tax, because every day, I mean, there across the street was a comedy club, the Casbah Comedy Club. And Mark Vito, the guy that owned it, he really broke a lot of comics. He had comics there before. He was like the East Coast version of, Mitzi Shore out in and I knew Mark my whole life. And in fact, his brother Rick is a very talented guitar player. He was the guitarist for Fleetwood Mac when Lindsey Buckingham left.
Oh
So
wow.
really, good people. I've known them my whole life. So I used to go every night after the diner and sit and watch comics. I'd see Jim Florentine, Jim Norton, Dom Irrera. And it was just so much fun. He said, "What do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? What do you?" So I've always had a love of comedy, even though I just started doing stand up last year. But
Yeah.
I've always loved, watching movies.
Sure.
My father had a great sense of humor. My father,
Joe,
my dad had a great sense of humor, and go back to the 80s. Remember, go on airline flights, you watch full movies and put headphones on. My father would start laughing, explosive laughing. People would be looking behind them at their, see what's going on over there, and he'd be laughing at whatever the movie was. And that's
Yeah.
So I was always raised with a sense of humor. I could remember Saturday nights in the 70s in the wintertime,
Yeah.
going out, getting a couple of pizzas from Josie's Pizza, coming back, and we all would watch Saturday Night Live as a family.
Oh, I was going to talk to you about Saturday Night Live. That's awesome.
Yeah. Loved it early on. Oh, it was like you almost wished the week away to get to Saturday night to see what Saturday Night Live was going to be, because it was so funny. And it was like we'd have to turn the volume up because my father was laughing so loud. It was like, "Go on, stop! We got to hear." And he'd get beat red. It was funny. But I used to do this thing at the diner where he was the chef, so he'd come out, cool off, have a cup of coffee. And
Joe, what was your dad's first name?
Joe. So
that's right.
there's no imagination. He was Joe Senior. I'm Joe Junior. My son's Joe the Third. No imagination. No. But so I would wait till he took a sip of coffee, and then I'd tell him something funny, and coffee come out his nose, and he would start laughing. But he would curse at me. He said, "USOB, what are you doing?" So it was really, I used to love, doing that. But it just grew up in a family, loved humor, loved to have fun.
So your dad had like a coffee nose enema.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a colonic in reverse.
Yeah,
It goes in the mouth, comes out the nose. I don't know what else came out with the coffee, but
probably some long ass nose hairs.
Another Italian joke, but I'm bump. Because we have long hair everywhere except where we need it, right? It's you're getting to that age where you try everything, but it's not growing here, but it's growing out the ears, the nose, on top of my nose now. My girlfriend says, you have this cute little hair. Let me get the razor. I don't know. There are no cute hairs on your nose. They're just ugly, disgusting old man hairs. So, but yeah, as far, but you wanted to talk about Saturday Night Live. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So,
I love Saturday Night Live.
I remember I think the very first episode had Richard Pryor, and they did a spoof on The Exorcist, and it was hilarious.
Oh my God, yes.
And then that first season they did the spoof on Star Trek, where they canceled the show. And they're taking the set apart while they're all on the bridge of the Enterprise. And I think Chevy Chase was Spock. They took the ears off Chevy Chase while they're just standing there. Just so clever, so funny.
Oh my God, yes.
I haven't watched it in years. I'm sure there's some.
It's all out there on YouTube that you can just like get out there and watch it all. It's amazing.
I'm usually performing.
Right. Yeah.
Tonight I'll be performing till at least 10 o'clock. So by the time I get home and I just want to collapse, But what a brilliant idea, brilliant show. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
Eddie Murphy when he played Gumby. Oh, I mean, it's Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. I mean, the characters that he did.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
And but I remember the one where Joan Rivers was a guest on Saturday Night Live, and Eddie Murphy as Gumby interacted with Joan. He was using the Yiddish accent. Joan Rivers, it's me, Gumby. It's just, it's just very, 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 very funny.
Black guy with the Yiddish accent. I mean, you can't beat that. Like that's you can't get more Jewish than a black guy dressed up like in a green Gumby outfit.
But one thing about Eddie Murphy is he's very Jersey. I mean, he grew up with everybody. But when with the Yiddish accent, or when he's making,
is he a New Yorker or is he Jersey?
No, I think he grew up in North Jersey. I
Did
think he
he?
grew up
Okay.
in North Jersey. Yeah, Jersey has a lot of people, and a lot of people don't want to, but you go back to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack Nicholson was from New Jersey. Danny DeVito was from New Jersey. So they
Okay.
not met. That's when they first met, and they realized they grew up down the street from each other in like at the Asbury Park area.
Okay. So imagine you have met some funny people and had funny conversations with funny people based on your background. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, as
Who do you
far
think's the most famous person you've gotten a chance to chat with?
gosh, well, during life, probably Dom Irrera.
Okay.
Because he used to come in the diner when he
Yeah.
would perform at the Casbah, and he became good friends with my mother, and so so I would say probably Dom. But
Was he in some movies?
he was in the Big Lebowski. I think he was in a movie that I've never seen and never heard. I think it was called The Godson with Dom DeLuise.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so he's had some bit parts. He was in one episode of Seinfeld. He was I forget the name, but it was the prop comic where he pulls out the gun at the bar and George yells gun in the bar. Everybody runs out of the bar while Jerry's performing. So yeah, he's done some stuff, and he's I don't think he's doing much anymore. I think he's semi-retired, but Dom, and then I opened for Steve Trevino back in April, and he's really picked up a lot of momentum. He's got a lot of specials on Hulu and Netflix, and
Okay.
selling out theaters, 1,000, 2,000 seat theaters. And it was just a fluke that being in the mortgage business, I knew a woman who works for a mortgage wholesaler who
Yeah.
does business with a mortgage broker in PA, who's Steve Trevino's best friend. And she said, "Hey, look,
Okay.
Steve likes to bring on some, up and coming comics. Send him your stuff." And his friend thought I was hilarious and said, "I think you should bring him on." So back in April in Wilkes-Barre, PA, I did like 6 minutes in front of like 900 people, and spent a lot of time in the green room talking to Steve. So more recently, I would say Steve Trevino. I
Okay.
opened for Tony Woods, who's pretty well known.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys like that. But I mean, with Dom Irrera, he'd come into the diner and we'd sit for like hours. And it's funny because he didn't go to open mics. He used to sit in the booth and say, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think?" And he'd just read me. And then, you'd see him on TV and he'd be doing the bit. And he said, "I remember he was working that bit out with me in the booth at the diner." It was, that stuff was pretty cool. But
Sure.
yeah, it's and I'm sure I've talked to famous people that I didn't realize they were famous people because I'm so oblivious.
All good. Okay. Okay.
But,
What about, hey, Joe, back in the day, any crazy dates you ever went on? Dates or anything like that?
Where do you want me to start? So,
Well, either high school, college, wherever you want to jump in.
well, so I guess junior high, I dated this girl that was a twin, and we broke up. Well, she broke up with me, and I said, "That's okay. I'll date your sister. She looks just like you." I come to find out twins don't like a comment like that. So that was a bit on the crazy side. Things that she said with the woman I'm dating now. First date, lunch date, no alcohol involved. First 20 minutes, we spoke 20 minutes on the phone before this date, never spoke prior, never met prior. Conversation was all her. She used the F word 30 times in a matter of a 20-minute conversation in ways I've never heard it used.
Well, she better not slap your hand for saying the F-bomb then.
Wait, I'm getting to that.
Sorry.
So then she tells me she had a call from a telemarketer and said something very vulgar to him. And then says that she doesn't like me using a certain word in my act. She goes to church and she thinks it's very offensive after saying all that. I kid you not. This happened. Then we take a walk on the beach. Mind you, still no alcohol involved. And we're sitting there having a very benign conversation. You like the beach, I like the beach, blah, 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 blah. Then looks at me with a straight face and asks me, "Can you still," and just fill in the blank.
I got it. Yeah. Huh.
And I'm like, yeah. I mean,
Is she from New York? Is she from New York or New Jersey? Where's she from?
Originally from Hamilton, New Jersey.
Is
And
she an Italian lady?
half Italian. This is the one that's half Italian, half Polish. Did I tell you she made me dinner the other night? She made me kielbasa, but it was stuffed in a cannoli shell, so it was like an Italian beef Wellington. But the cannoli shell actually still had the cannoli cream in it, so it was disgusting. So I took a bite and I said, "Oh, that's good, but I'm full." And thank goodness I was talking to the Polish side because she believed me. Was not the finest dinner I'd ever had.
I guess not, man. Pierogies with marinara, huh?
Pierogies with marinara. No, probably pierogi with, after that dinner, probably pierogies with peanut butter. That
Yes.
but
I'm
yeah,
trying to think of good Polish food.
Everybody that I talked to about her, and people have met her, friends have met her, they said, you finally did it. You found the female version of you. That's why you get along so well. And I guess that's true because she's off the cuff crazy.
That's awesome, though.
It is. We have a great time. Great person, very happy. One thing I admire about her is she's a 2-time cancer survivor, skin cancer and breast cancer.
Wow.
She's had other health issues, had some personal issues with relationships and whatnot. And she is, if there's anybody in this world that you can say, all right, she's got a green light to complain. She doesn't complain, and she's got the most positive, happy, joking demeanor. And I've been with her 2 months. So, I figured if there's an ugly side, it might be freaked out by now. And I don't think it's there. I just think she's a genuinely nice, funny, kind person that always looks at things, the world glass half full. And it's nice to be with that, because the one that I can't tell you, we went to a single dinner in over 1,000 dinners over almost 9 years where she didn't complain. I don't like where we're sitting. The seat wobbles. It's too bright. It's too cold. It's too hot. I don't like what I ordered. I mean, I don't think there's a dinner she didn't complain.
What's it called? An alcoholic? It's a 9-step program. Is that right?
12-step.
12-step. Okay. That's why I've never become sober. But I got to believe she's a complainaholic. It sounds like.
On top of everything else. And, it's just, things were okay. I could put up with all that.
Yeah.
Till she.
I agree. So this is the time in the show where, you can promote, and we're going to put like your website and everything down so that like if people want to see the comedic stylings of Joe Scuraka, it will be available to them.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Joe. Tell everybody what you do, and then I'll tell everybody what I do.
Well, I am a stand-up comic. I'm still a mortgage broker because all $80 that I've made so far in stand-up comedy just is a little short to pay all my bills. But, I'm getting there. So, but I still do mortgages during the day. Benchmark Mortgage. I'm licensed in New Jersey. I'm not expecting any mortgage business from you guys. I don't like to do them anyway. But my comedy, Joe Scuraka, Scrocca, Joe Scuraka Comedy. If you put that in, you'll link up to my link tree, my Facebook, Instagram. And Instagram has videos of different clips of shows that I've done. Get an idea of my style of humor. And if you like it, like my sites and let me know where you're at. And I'd love to come out and perform because I do tour. I'm based in New Jersey, but I've already performed in Florida, Virginia, New York, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and of course, New Jersey. And I'm planning a small tour out to Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
Wow, Joe, you are taking off. That's awesome. I'll go ahead and promote what I do. I am John the Sales Warrior Sansoni. I've been professionally selling successfully for 34 years. What can I teach you? How to prospect, present, follow up, and most importantly, how to close. I have a 3-day masterclass that includes inspiration, motivation, and the mental tools to succeed in business and sales. My course includes worksheets, audio, video, and can be taken in 30 action blocks. Also included, how to have greater confidence. My course should be $400. If you get it today, $29.95. And included my book for free. Once purchased, you'll get free monthly inspiration from me. Just go to saleswarriorinspire.com and order yours today. That's it. Back to the show.
Oh, John, that's fantastic. You really know what you're doing. You're going to help a lot of people. You should you should keep promoting that because you're helping a lot of people excel in their careers.
Man, Joe, thanks a lot. It's a work of love from the heart for sure. Man, Joe, so great having you on. Man, it makes me just like Jones to get back to Jones Beach and get back to like New York and New Jersey area and everything. I mean, got a lot of friends in that area and just really excited to get back there. And
when you come back, look me up. I'd love to go out for a cup of coffee, a beer, whatever, dinner, whatever.
That sounds awesome because I'm like 3 years from like being, having full sobriety. So I'm not there yet, but I'm all about vision and manifestation. So I'll try to get there before I'm fully sober so that we can really have a good time. But I'm trying to manifest full sobriety. Just
hey,
not
listen,
any.
you can have a good time sober. There's plenty to do. A lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
All the bars serve club soda, and that's what I drink.
Absolutely. Hey, any little anecdotal information that you'd like to bring up before we cancel, close out the show?
People always come up and ask me, how do you do it? Do you get nervous? I'd always want to try stand up, and I tell people, do it. Just do it. I said, I don't get nervous at all. I get up on that stage. I really don't care. I mean, I want to make the people laugh, but if they don't laugh, they don't laugh. The worst they could do is boo, heckle, not laugh, walk out. It's not like the old days where they could chase you with pitchforks and set you on fire. That would be a bad result to a bad comedy set. But I just tell people, who always come up to me and ask about it, do it. If you can get up in front of the people and just, do a few jokes or bits or whatever,
right?
Get it out of your system. You'll realize there's nothing to be afraid of.
Okay, Joe. So we're going to say goodbye to everybody and wrap up this episode of School's Out 80 Comedy Story Time. So, Joe, say goodbye to everybody at School's Out 80s.
All right, people, school's out. Goodbye. It was a pleasure to be on the show. John, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And, I hope you check out my my info on social media. You may like me, you may hate me, but I want you to check me out.
Sounds good, Joe. And from Dallas, Texas, this is John the Sales Warrior saying, cheers, everybody.